Today's lesson is called Freedom or Public Health, Which is More Valuable? Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
I am Roger. Today, again, we're going to talk about COVID-19. Don't we love talking about COVID-19? It seems we never run out of things to say about COVID-19. Now, our approach today is slightly different. We're talking about the debate between freedom, personal freedom to do whatever you want, and the greater good, public health. Should we be able to do whatever we want, or should we kind of be controlled by the government to prevent the spread of this nasty disease?
Now, we are blessed to live in a place where this particular debate wasn't really a big deal for anyone, okay? No one had to choose between freedom or public health here in Taiwan. The government response to COVID-19 was fantastic, and there was never really a lockdown. Sure, if you wanted to take public transportation or something like that, you had to wear a mask, but at no point was there a lockdown. Well, in other parts of the world, including the United States, there were lockdowns, nationwide lockdowns, and some people thought this was a restriction of their personal freedoms. So they thought, you know what? Forget the lockdown thing. This is a free country. I am going to go out and do what I want. I'm going to protest this or that, and I'm going to do so without wearing a mask. Yeah, some people chafed against this particular idea. Oh, you can't make me wear a mask. That's against my personal freedoms. You're taking away my rights. So this was kind of a big debate outside of Taiwan, in the United States in particular. Yes, freedom or public health, which is more valuable? That is the question. That is the debate that we'll be talking about in our lesson. Anyways, let's get started with our lesson. We'll do so right after this.
Freedom or public health, which is more valuable? The spread of COVID-19 has prompted many nations to take away their citizens' freedom of movement. People have been forced to stay at home for most of the day and forbidden from going to work or school.
大家好，第一部分我们看到片语 forbid somebody from 动词 ing 表示禁止某人做某事。例如 The teacher forbids her students from chewing gum in the classroom. 那名老师禁止学生在教室里嚼口香糖。另外，补充一个同义片语ban somebody from 动词 ing 像是 All people are banned from smoking inside public buildings in Taiwan. 在台湾，所有人都禁止在公共建筑内抽烟。
Okay, let's talk about the first part of our lesson. Let's first of all talk about the title here. We're talking about freedom, being able to do whatever you want. And then the debate here is freedom versus public health, which is more valuable. Public health, of course, refers to everybody being healthy together. What is your right to freedom, and how does that affect the health of everyone else? So which is more valuable? Should you be able to go wherever you want, whenever you want? Or should you stay at home like the government tells you to? Well, here in the first paragraph it says, the spread of COVID-19 has prompted many nations to take away their citizens' freedom of movement. That did not happen so much here in Taiwan, but as we said earlier, it did happen in a lot of other countries. I think when Wuhan first started having this problem, they totally locked that place down and people stayed put. They did not go anywhere because the government said you can't go anywhere.
It was more than that, actually. I have a cousin who lives in the mainland, and yes, there was a lockdown. I believe that he was on vacation in Canada, and when he came back, yes, they were in full lockdown mode there in China. Basically, you had to go to your apartment there, close the door, and not come out for 2 weeks Seriously, if you wanted to get food or anything like that, you could have it arranged, okay, to be delivered to you, but you couldn't go anywhere. In fact, he had a problem with his doorknob, and he started fiddling with that, trying to fix it, and a police officer came to his door and said, "Hey, what's going on? You stay put there," all right? So there were big-time lockdowns there, and some people didn't like this idea. Yes, after a little while there, after being cooped up there with his girlfriend, he started to go a little bit nuts there. My cousin in China there did. Yes, he started to chafe against this idea of lockdown. He wanted some freedom. Anyways, in this first sentence here, we do have the verb prompt to talk about, okay? In this particular situation, the word prompt is kind of like the word cause, okay? COVID-19 caused many nations to take away their citizens' freedom, or it brought about this particular change. But when I think of the word prompt, I think of it more as you've been given a cue and then you do what is expected of you on cue. So these nations, these governments in these nations, okay, they saw COVID-19 spreading. This was their cue to do something, to act. And what could they do? What was in the playbook? Well, you've got to enact a lockdown here. You've got to take away the freedom of citizens, even though that's not a great thing to do. But hey, COVID-19 was just that bad. So it prompted this particular change in policy, let's say.
For example, John's grades in math were so poor, and that prompted him to find a math tutor. So in this particular case, yes, COVID-19 and the spread of it prompted many nations to take away their citizens' freedom of movement. It kind of made them take this action. Sorry, you've got to stay in your apartment for 2 weeks. You have no choice. Now, people have been forced to stay at home for most of the day and forbidden from going to work or school. So they have been forbidden from doing something. Here, forbidden is the past tense of the verb to forbid, which means somebody in authority tells you you cannot do something. And then we have the preposition from here, followed by a verb. So you are forbidden from smoking in this restaurant, for example.
There you go. It's not allowed. If you do that, there might just be repercussions or punishment, okay? So I don't know exactly what the Chinese authorities there in the mainland would have done if my cousin had decided to leave his apartment, but hey, he was very much forbidden from doing so. He was told to stay put in such a way that he didn't dare leave his apartment. Anyways, folks, with that, it is time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. When we come back, we'll have more on the subject of freedom versus public health in the time of COVID-19.
Some countries, however, are emerging from lockdown much faster than others, or, in rare cases like that of Taiwan, have avoided lockdown completely. But how? In order to maintain freedom of movement, the citizens of these countries have had to give up a different type of freedom, that of absolute privacy.
第二部分我们看到单字 emerge 这个字是动词，指事实显露、浮现、出现。例如 Problems with the car emerged soon after Jessica had bought it. Jessica 买下那台车没多久，车子的问题很快就一一浮现。或是 Gary finally emerged from his room after playing an online computer game for 10 hours straight. Gary 在玩了足足10个小时的线上游戏之后，总算从房间出现了。另外，这个字除了上面的意思，还可以指崭露头角、兴起。我们可以说 Simon has emerged as one of the best salesmen in the company. Simon 以名列前茅的业务之姿在公司崭露头角。
Okay, let's talk about the second part of our lesson. And remember, the key word here is lockdown, which means you pretty much have to stay put and stores and businesses are closed, etc., etc. So some countries, however, are emerging from lockdown much faster than others. or in rare cases like that of Taiwan, have avoided lockdown completely. Some of you here may not even know what the word lockdown means because it didn't really happen here in Taiwan so much. But again, lockdown, as I said, as we've said, means you got to stay put, you can't go anywhere. You get the idea. But here we've got the verb to emerge, and we're using it with the preposition from. To emerge from something. That means the situation is changing. They are no longer in lockdown. They're starting to open their doors and have freedom of movement. Usually emerge means something that is hidden comes out and can now be seen.
Anyway, so some countries are emerging from lockdown much faster than others. But how? Well, in order to maintain freedom of movement, the citizens of these countries have had to give up a different type of freedom, that of absolute privacy.
Privacy, exactly. That's when you're all by yourself and nobody can bother you. Some people like their privacy. For example, I think in Sweden, they really love their privacy, so much so that many adults live by themselves. They don't live with their families and things like that. They have single apartments because they love their privacy. They like to be by themselves. They like to read and listen to music and stuff like that. They don't want to be bothered by children or grandparents and stuff like that. So in any case here, yes, indeed, if you want to have a lockdown, you need to give up your privacy in a certain way. That means the government can kind of monitor you and know where you're going all the time.
There you go. So some countries, okay, have had success. Okay, they're emerging from lockdown quickly. Some countries like Taiwan have not had a lockdown at all. Yay! But what was the cost of all this? Apparently, absolute privacy will be a thing of the past, okay? And I'm a big fan of privacy. So, you know what? I'm kind of interested to kind of pursue this debate further, but before we can do so, we need to take a short break, so don't go away. We'll be back again right after this.
In Taiwan, if anyone reports to a hospital with COVID-19 symptoms, their recent movements are traced using mobile phone data, and people who have come into contact with them are notified. What's more, local authorities are allowed to constantly track the location of a quarantined person. Similar measures have been taken by Singapore, where an app is used to keep a record of people who may have been exposed to an infected person. While this kind of tracking requires an invasion of privacy, most people in these countries are happy to make the trade if it means that life continues as normal and deaths remain low.
第三部分，我们看到名词 symptom 指症状、征兆。举例来说 ，One of the symptoms of heart problems is a pain in the chest。心脏病的症状之一是胸腔疼痛。再来，我们看到一个单字 notify， 这个字是动词，指通知、告知。例如 ，In most countries, the media notifies the public in case of natural disasters。在多数国家中，天灾发生时，媒体会通知大众，或是 The principal notified parents about changes to the school's policies。校长告知家长学校政策的改变。另外，补充一个相关动词 inform， I-N-F-O-R-M， inform 指告知、报告。举例来说 ，Please inform your manager that I would like to speak to her。请向你的经理报告说，我想跟他谈谈。接着我们看到动词 quarantine 指隔离、检疫。课文中 quarantined 为过去分词做形容词，指隔离的。我们可以说 Vicky's dog was quarantined when she brought it back from America。 Vicky 把养的狗从美国带回来时，狗儿被隔离检疫。或是 The government quarantined anyone who came in contact with an infected individual。 政府将曾和受感染者接触过的所有人隔离检疫。再来，我们看到一个单字 infect， 这个字是动词，意思是感染。例如 After bacteria infected the woman's wound, the doctor said she needed surgery right away。 细菌感染了这名女子的伤口后，医生说她要马上动手术。最后，我们看到动词 invasion， 指侵犯、入侵、侵扰，像是 invasion of privacy 就表示侵犯隐私权。我们可以说 The man was angry that the police had entered his home, which he felt was an invasion of his privacy. 该名男子很生气，警察闯入他家，他感到隐私权被侵犯。
Okay, the time has arrived for us to discuss the final portion of our lesson for today. Yes, we're going to talk about privacy and the loss of privacy when we have to think about everybody else's health in society. Now, in Taiwan, if anyone reports to a hospital with COVID-19 symptoms, their recent movements are traced using mobile phone data, or data, you can say it both ways, and people who have come into contact with them are notified. So yes, indeed, if you go to the hospital and you're kind of coughing or whatever, you're showing these symptoms, which could be coughing, it could be something in your lungs or something like that. There are various signs of this disease. There are various symptoms. So if you have those symptoms, they're going to watch all your movements.
There you go. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, which I believe might have been coughing, fever, stuff like that, people, we're going to trace you, okay? They might ask for your cell phone. They might ask you a list of questions that you need to answer and stuff like that. But yes, you're going to have to hand over that phone and a lot of your personal information and data, okay? So the trade-off here is, okay, public health, that's a good thing, okay? Knowing where you were and who you were associating with, so on and so forth, that helps control the spread of COVID-19. But the trade-off there was that you had to give over that personal data, the personal information and stuff like that. So you do have to make the trade here. You hand over a bit of yourself. You give away a certain amount of your privacy, but you are benefiting public health in the process. So this is all sounding pretty good. Again, though, I am a fan of privacy. I would not want to be tracked, but if I did end up getting COVID-19 or if I started showing symptoms of that disease, I would definitely do my best to help other people out. I would do what was best for public health.
Yep, they've got that data from your mobile phone or maybe from your Easy Card or whatever to trace your movements over the past several weeks or whatever. So they're going to want to know who you came into contact with. In other words, people you actually touched or interacted with, you had a conversation with, maybe you shared a meal or something, and those people will be notified. Hey, that person you had dinner with, that Friday night at that Italian restaurant, that person has COVID-19 now, so you better watch out. We're going to examine you too. So they're going to notify them, let them know. And what's more, or in addition, also, local authorities are allowed to constantly track the location of a quarantined person. Quarantined means you are separated from everybody else. Sometimes we say you're in quarantine. You basically have to stay in a certain place. You cannot leave. You cannot have any contact with anybody else. And so the authorities will be able to track you. Authority, of course, usually in the plural here, just refers to government officials, the police, or whoever.
There you go. So quarantine, by the way, it's a big fancy word, but it's got a very specific meaning, okay? Quarantine is a state of isolation due to illness, okay? People think you're sick or have been in contact with a sick person, so they put you in isolation. That specific type of isolation is called quarantine. So you can be isolated due to illness, okay? Or you can be quarantined. That's the idea here. Also, at the beginning of this sentence, we had the phrase, what's more, okay? This phrase kind of means moreover, in addition to, so on and so forth. What you're saying is that we're going to add something to what we said before, okay? We're accumulating facts here, stacking one thing on top of another, maybe to make our point of view in the discussion more persuasive. Anyways, moving on. Similar measures, it says next. Similar measures have been taken by Singapore, where an app is used to keep a record of people who may have been exposed to an infected person. So there you go. An app is used to keep a record of people. An app on a smartphone, I suppose. Further, it says here that this app, it tracks people who have been exposed to an infected person. An infected person has a disease, okay? It has been confirmed. They have gotten it. They've contracted it. And if you've been exposed to them, that means you've come into contact with them, okay, and you might have that disease yourself.
Yep, you may have been exposed to an infected person, just like your computer may be infected with a virus or malware or whatever. Now, it goes on here, it says, while this kind of tracking requires an invasion of privacy, most people in these countries are happy to make the trade if it means that life continues as normal and deaths remain low. So yes, indeed, we all understand that this kind of tracking is necessary to control the disease, but it does require an invasion of privacy. An invasion of privacy just means somebody is interrupting your privacy. They're going to know things about your personal life, and most people don't want other people to know, but I think basically here it's saying that most people are happy to make that trade if it means it's for the common good.
Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. The Chinese teacher is waiting in the wings.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 我们来看今天的文法重点。在新冠肺炎的疫情期间，台湾政府用手机资料来追踪隔离者和确诊病患的接触者。那么课文第3部分写到 Similar measures have been taken by Singapore. 新加坡也有采取类似的措施。好，那我们来看 take measures 就表示采取措施，它的意思跟 adopt measures 或者是 impose measures 很相似。那么其中的 measure 是当名词来表达措施方法，而在这个片语当中呢，它固定要用复数哦。measures 的前面你还可以加上形容词去修饰。例如 They called on the government to take stronger measures to reduce air pollution. 他们呼吁政府采取更有力的措施来减少空气污染的问题。好，那么课文最后一句他写到说，虽然这种追踪需要侵犯隐私，但如果那意味着生活维持正常以及死亡人数持续很低，这些国家大多数的人都愿意做交换。好，课文用到连接词 while， 意思就跟 though、although 一样，用来引导让步副词子句去表达尽管怎么样，虽然怎么样。那特别注意的是 while、though 或是 although 都不能跟连接词 but 一起使用。这些连接词你只要择一使用，就可以表达出虽然怎么样，但是怎么样的语义。所以不要 although 怎么样 but 怎么样，这是错误的哦。好，例如 While Ethan is short, he's the best player on his team. 虽然 Ethan 个子不高，但他却是他们队上最厉害的球员。好，顺便补充 while 当连接词的其他用法哦。第一种可以表达而、然而，那是用来连接两个对比或是不同的陈述，意思就相当于 whereas。例如 Jessie is good at music while her sister is good at sports. Jessie 擅长音乐，而她的妹妹擅长运动。第二个用法是用 while 来表达在什么期间与什么同时，那这个意思就相当于 when。例如 The phone rang while he was taking a shower. 他在洗澡的时候电话响了。那这边要补充一下while 当这个意思来解释时呢，如果连接两个子句，它们的主词都一样，我们可以省略 while 后方的主词，然后把动词改分词。也就是说 while 引导的那一句呢，会被简化成 while 加现在分词或过去分词，也就是加 VING 或是 PP。例如 They ran into Dave while they were waiting for the bus。就可以简化成 They ran into Dave while waiting for the bus. 他们在等公车的时候遇到 Dave. 好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Prompt. Rising crime prompted Carrie to move to a new neighborhood. Emerge. The bear emerged from its cave after a long winter's sleep. Privacy. It is becoming more difficult these days for people to protect their own online privacy. Notify. Please notify my secretary if you want to cancel our appointment. Authority. The authorities are doing everything in their power to locate the missing child. Infect. When I was sick, I stayed home from work so that I wouldn't infect the people I work with. Invasion. The small country lived in constant fear of an enemy invasion.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.